tons of problems when it comes to video game collecting in 2024. And of course, everyone has something to say about video game collectors. You know, we've all heard these concerns or even judgments that people make. Game collectors are just shelf collectors. They don't even play their games. And when people are talking about money, they think that collectors only care about the money and the value of these items. They must be rich, and just so much other stuff. Well, not everything that you hear is particularly true when it comes to this. So first of all, no one should be gatekeeping or trying to keep hold of all of the collectors and video gaming out there. It's just insane. No one should be telling you what to do with your collection. We all collect for different reasons. Not everyone is going to collect every single game out there. Not every single person is going to, spend all of their free time looking for video games. Some people are a little bit different than others, and that is okay when it comes to this. So some people enjoy finding the deals. Some enjoy playing their video games, or even trading, or yes, reselling. Some people just love reselling video games. They enjoy making a profit, and they just love the thrill of the hunt. And that's okay too. Now, you could go into all of the different methods and different things like that, but essentially, if it's your stuff and your money, you can do whatever you want with it. So I enjoy collecting because I love learning about these games. I love the promotional items, just some things that I never knew about, some things that I remember from my childhood, and some things that are just so unique or rare or truly one-of-a-kind items. Those are the items that I love learning about because it has shaped gaming as it is today, and I just love that part of it. And when everyone always asks, why do you have so many of these games? Well, one day the intention is to try and play more of these games, get to go through and not just, the few minutes that I've played while testing some of these games, but I'd really like to dive in deep on some of the ones that has really impacted me in those first few minutes of playing those games. Those are definitely on my list and ones that I would love to experience at a later time. Now, this one is more of a judgment that I've heard. Not every video game collector out there is rich. I get so many comments of people saying, you must be rich, you must have won the lottery, you must have, all this money out there. Most of us work normal jobs. YouTube does not pay to the extent where you can, quit your day job. Most of the time, you have to find these deals. And a lot of us have been collecting these games for a long time. Before it was the cool thing to do, where everyone, jumped in, trying to resell, trying to make a profit, and just so on and so on. So it's just wild to me that people are so quick to assume that. Some people buy different things. Some people love clothing, shoes, jewelry, just different odds and ends like that, cars. A lot of people are into that stuff. And some of us just love spending our money on video games. It's our hobby. It's something that we're passionate about. And there are still deals out there. And us collectors have learned what works over the years. We look at most of these other gaming YouTubers. A lot of them come from these humble beginnings, where they had just a few games in the background of their videos. And now look at some of them. They just have so much. But when you've been doing this for quite some time, especially some of the older guys, of course they're going to find deals and they're going to buy this stuff before the prices even jump up. A lot of these items here I have bought, pre all of this hype and jump in prices. A lot of this stuff I was able to hunt and find those deals. Moving around trying to find some amazing prices and jumping on those opportunities. That is something that we really pride and that we absolutely love when it comes to our collections. Now, another one that I always hear, are you a collector? Are you a gamer? There is no in between. Well, that's not always the case. A lot of people do play their games. Not everyone collects just to literally put the games on the shelf. People are exploring these games. They're researching them. They're playing them. They're having people over their house behind the scenes. They're getting a chance to explore some of these games and just try and relive some of those magical moments that we either used to have back in the day or from our childhood. And people are always saying, you'll never play your games. It's that, curse where it's the never-ending backlog. And why is that? It's so much easier to buy games at a faster rate than playing them. It takes seconds to go online to buy a game, to essentially, then to load up the game and play it. It's just so wild that you could go online, have something shipped within a few days, and within a few days it might take you a chance to only play one of those games or even get through some of the older games that you have in your collection. So people essentially have different reasons to buy or even play games. Not everyone plays games the same way that you do. Some people don't play to completion. Some people just want to enjoy a little bit of it. And once again, just because it's deemed a bad game does not mean that that game is not fun. That game can be still a blast to play, even if it is essentially a bad game. It could have bad graphics, it could have bad music, it could just be a bad, terrible game, but you could find some sort of humor in it, or if it's something nostalgic, that might be something that you want to do. Now, this is one that I absolutely love. So this is when people say that us shelf collectors are the reason why these games are going up in price. Now, that is not the case at all. So it's just so wild that people try to hold others responsible for driving up the prices. People, especially to me and other content creators that don't have these huge followings, they try to say that we are the reason. And that's not always the case. A lot of times it's essentially the age brackets of people. It's the age groups. So what people played back in their prime years, those consoles are going to spike up. When stores close, the online store closes, and there's no other opportunity to play these games except for physical media. That is when the prices are going to go up. There's been tons of content creators who have said all of these warnings about these things happening in the future, or even talked about certain systems, and some of those systems just aren't trending, or they don't hit at that right time. It's all about timing, it's all about other factors, and you can't necessarily blame these shelf collectors. Most collectors only buy one of the game, and then they move on. They're not hoarding stacks and piles of the same exact game, manipulating the market and doing all of that stuff. Most people just buy the game and they'll play it, or they'll put it on their shelf and eventually they'll play it, but they're not, manipulating the market. They're not reselling and just spiking the market at certain times. So people just love playing on the original hardware. Some people find deals enough to have those games physical, and something charming about playing on a CRT. The way that these games were meant to be played and designed back in the day. There's something so off-putting when you see some of these retro games on a flat screen, on these high-definition TVs. There's just something about it that it doesn't quite hit the same way, especially if you don't have all of the hardware upgrades. So, I love the lighting when it comes to it. The lighting has to look right. I love the look of those older TVs, the sound from the speakers, a little bit of that crackle. Nothing compares to that. What about the days of going into those arcades? When you were waiting for your turn, you had those dark lights, that dark, dingy look that was going on. I just love that. There was something about hearing the quarters, seeing people lined up to play these games, gathering around. That is the stuff that I absolutely love. So when people say that you could just buy all of these different devices, emulate them yourself, and add all of these games, it's just not quite the same. Now, that does work for some people, especially if you just want to play the games, but if you want to recreate that whole experience, that is why people do this. That is why they collect these games. They have these lights on, they have the kiosks, they have the TVs, they have all of this stuff hooked up, and they just want to have a good time, and that's perfectly okay to do. And then this is another big point. Not everyone has to collect when it comes to video games. You don't have to have a crazy collection. You can collect any way that you want. You could play any way that you want. You could spend your money how you want. And that is okay. You don't have to always put people down for their passions, their goals, their dreams. You don't know if they have something bigger and better planned to where, all of this stuff could be somewhere else for people to enjoy. You just don't know that. So you don't want to always put people down for collecting and asking them why. And people shouldn't diss anyone for enjoying that. We're all different, but gaming is supposed to be an inclusive place. We have to keep that passion alive for the next generation. With all of these games going digital and less of these physical versions, collector's editions, all of this stuff where you don't even essentially own your games and they can take away that at any time. It's a time that we all need to come together, keep this hobby going, keep the conventions going, keep these meetings and just the support there so that the next generation falls into this where they get to have a great experience, a fun time, and just get to enjoy this stuff. That's what it's all about. What comes to mind when you hear the word collector? Do you immediately think of all the negative things like shelf collector? I want to know what comes to mind when you hear video game collector, whether it's retro gaming, whether it's newer stuff, just collector in general. So of course, let me know what you guys think about this topic. And thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and check out all of my other videos and stay tuned for more.